On November 30th, 2022, Dr. George, pastor of First Baptist Atlanta, stated this startling statement, and I quote, "Before our very eyes, this is happening, especially in the Western enlightened countries. There are groups of people who gather in unison and purposed in their hearts to take over the world. There are no bombs being dropped, no bullets being fired, no overt military force occupying the Western world being used to accomplish this. They're taking over the world by taking over the minds and thoughts of human beings by establishing a monopoly on human thinking, by capturing the control of the educational establishment, by taking control of the flow of information through the media and using in entertainment and all other forms through big tech. By taking control of the flow of information through the media and using entertainment and all other forms through big tech. They are one person at a time, conquering more and more intellectual real estate to the point that the entire world is being brought under the sway and control of these manipulators of human thinking who ultimately are controlling human behavior." How did all this happen? And all this dismantling of America and the rest of the world brought forth by a very insane ruthlessness that justifies and calls evil good and good evil, just like the scriptures have warned us about. All this came into being by a spiritual host, folks, whom the Bible identifies as the Ephesians 6 crowd, as I call them, of principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, host of wickedness in the heavenly places. These are the fallen angels, the fallen watchers, and the demonic hosts that came about through the Genesis 6 happenings there. We saw in Genesis chapter 6, whom the Word of God says will appear as angels of light to capture the souls and hearts of human agents in order to do their will. In fact, the occultist Alice Bailey identifies such beings and calls them a hierarchy. She channeled their plans to remake and control the soul of humanity. Much of what we are witnessing happen right before our eyes today. In the externalization of the hierarchy, Alice Bailey on page 3 says, "It has been shown for a long time by the mystics of all the world religions and by esoteric students everywhere that certain members of the planetary hierarchy are approaching closer to the earth at this time, that some of them are also preparing to break their long silence and may appear later among men." On page 12 she channels, "If that can be brought about, then there can be a reestablished on earth a condition which brought to an end in the earlier days when the hierarchy, in order to further man's mental development, withdrew behind the scenes for a period. If this spiritual contact can be brought about, it means that the hierarchy will no longer be hidden and unknown, but will recognize as the present upon the physical plane. This would at first be necessarily on a small scale, and recognition will be confined to the aspirants and disciples. Increasingly in the new group of world service will be active in every nation and found functioning throughout the entire world. Thus," on page 14 she channels, "thus they can aid in carrying out the plans of the council of the hierarchy to meet the immediate human emergency. As I told you before, the plans for humanity are not laid down, for humanity determines its own destiny. The effort is directed towards establishing a closer relationship between humanity and the hierarchy." Well, folks, who exactly is this hierarchy? Well, in her writings, she identifies these as: the hierarchy is a miniature replica of the greater synthesis of those self-conscious entities who manipulate, control, and demonstrate through the sun and the 7 sacred planets, as well as the other planets, greater and smaller, of which our solar system is composed. What she's talking about here are the 7 Mesopotamian gods who decree the fates of humanity, known as Anu, Enlil, Enki, Ninhursag, Eniana, Nana, and Shamas. These were the gods who decreed the fates of men, and they want to return and decree the fates of men again. I found this article on a website that I subscribe to called Academia that helps expose their mode of operandi here, how they operate, what their plans are, and how they plan to work through kings and rulers to bring about their desired end. In the article, The Writing of God, the textualization of Neo-Assyrian prophecy by Betty Panagratz Leinstein Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton University begins to write. On an old clay tablet found in Mesopotamia that's dated back to the first millennia before Common Era, this inscription was found inscribed in a clay tablet. And I added the meaning of the names here. Ea, the occultic god of craft, magic, and wisdom, and Shamash, the sun deity, Marduk, the dragon, the great gods. So all of a sudden it begins identifying three distinct beings. One who's a conjurer, one who's an enchanter, Enki, one who likes to take over the priestly class. Just think in the book of Revelation for a second. It talks about a false prophet who will have people worship a beast. Then you have Shamash, the sun deity, who is identified as the Antichrist in the book of Revelation. Then you have Marduk, the dragon, and you have a dragon pictured in the book of Revelation. Well, folks, I just simply find that amazing. Let's go back to the article here. Listen to what these fallen watchers do. These are the ones who judge the law of the land, who determine the nature of things, who draw cosmic design, who assigns the lots for heaven and earth. It is in your hand to decree the destinies and to draw the cosmic designs. You determine destinies of life. You draw the designs of life. You decide the decisions of life. In other words, they determine the nature of things. They determine the law of the land. Right there it tells you they're going to influence lawmakers. They're going to influence world leaders, people of chiefs, kings, priests, so forth, etc., in order to decree their destinies, what they want human beings to be like, to influence them and shape them in an image and likeness of that of the evil one. No other way to put it. And this article goes on to explain that these old pagan gods held in their power something called the tablets of destiny. This scholarly work goes out and explains that. What are the tablets of destiny? These were the tablets to decree the fates of men. That's why these Mesopotamian gods go by the nickname the seven gods who decree, are the seven fallen watchers who decree the fates of men. And you have evidence right that in that old clay tablet that I just read to you. On page 7 of The Writing of God, the textualization of Neo-Assyrian Prophecy, Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton University, and I quote on page 7, the gods were not only deemed to have control over a particular physical realm of nature, but also having the power to make decisions and draw cosmic designs and determine the fate of people and the nature of things, end quote. And on page 8 and on page 7 of her work, she wrote, the Mesopotamian worldview is dominated by this concept of an overarching plan in which gods, king, and human have a share. I'm going to interject here, and I wrote this down for you. They are going to share the tablets of destiny, which teaches human leaders to achieve absolute control over the destiny of the masses of humanity. Whoever listened to them would gain control of the world. And she goes on and she writes, holding the tablets of destiny confirm a preeminent status in the pantheon and signal absolute control, as we learn from the creation epic, the Yuma Elish. According to the Mesopotamian lore here, whoever possessed the tablets of destiny absolutely controlled the destiny of all humanity, and they would teach that to the kings and leaders who pass laws to do that, to control the population. Absolute dictatorial control. We see this in the Bible with Nebuchadnezzar, who made a statue. Anybody who didn't bow down to Nebuchadnezzar, well, you're toast, okay? You know the story if you know the book of Daniel. You see this in history books. The kings had the divine right of kings and emperors. They just played with the peasantry as playthings. They had absolute total dominance. And so these old gods pit nations against nations and so to fight over the destiny of nations, to control it all. So these tablets of destinies, according to the Mesopotamian lores of these old gods, which we know as the fallen watchers, they fought over the tablets of destinies to control humanity. By controlling humanity, one controls the world and the universe. And to control humanity involved contacting human agents and enchanting them to accept their version version of paradise, that they can make a paradise on earth. You know, you can have total absolute control because it's up to you to create this beautiful paradise. And you can be a god. You can be whatever you want. You'll be a noble philosopher king, ruling justly, and people will bow down and adore you. They had this idea that they can make utopia because the peasantry were too stupid to rule anything or govern themselves, but they need to be governed by the enlightened hierarchy who would teach these human agents how to control their populations. Sound familiar to you, anybody? Well, this involves selling the idea that to these rulers, these kings, these emperors, these elites, they had the right of absolute control over people's lives because the masses don't know what's good for them. If left to themselves, the masses would devastate the world. There'll be too much consuming going on, and that's a bad thing. There won't be enough for the elites to share in. They're going to cut into their profiteering and all that stuff. So the serfs, the serfs, the masses, must be made submissive to the benevolent elite class, and if they remain submissive, they can buy, sell, and eat and enjoy life. But if not, not so good for them. This was based on the rulers and elite class who owned everything while their subjects usually owned nothing, or what they owned was heavily monitored and taxed to maintain a paradise of control for the ruling class run by a returning spiritual being who would appear later on earth, who comes again to rule the earth, who we call the Antichrist, to control all the earth. Folks, this entity is supposed to be in the abyss and is going to be brought out of the abyss at an appointed time to come back on the planet, known as the sun deity, who is called in Mesopotamian lore Shamash or Utu. Any non-compliance was met with the most fiercest utter resistance. Why? Well, on page 8 of Betty Ponsegraph-Leenston's work here, she explains why. Throughout Mesopotamian mythology, depending on the period, various leader gods were considered to be in charge of controlling the tablets of destinies, and when they fell into the wrong hand, cosmic order got disrupted, folks. So what does that mean? What am I trying to say here? Folks, if the cosmic order of controlling the destinies of humanity were disrupted, this likewise would wreck the ruling elite's absolute control over their subjects' destinies as well. In other words, in ancient times, it was all about totalitarianism ruling. That was the rule of the land. It was the normality of things, as well as throughout history. We see it over and over again. These old gods, known as fallen angels, taught this to humanity's ancestors to do likewise. So their storylines teach how to have fights and wars to control the destiny of men, because they're all about killing, robbing, and destroying, and enchanting and selling all the killing, robbing, and destroying on earth as a way to achieve their own personal paradise for the rulers or kings' own personal paradise, folks. And so the old gods were not fighting amongst each other. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 10, I believe it was, is that a kingdom divided against itself shall not stand. If the devil's kingdom is divided against itself, how shall it stand? This is a military hierarchy. This is a subterfuge to get you to think that these entities are divided and fighting amongst themselves. The storylines teach humanity to do that, to control the destinies of humanity by fighting in war against anybody who threatens the tablets of destiny, to control the masses. If anyone comes against that, they have to come down hard and heavy and brutally and ruthlessly against anybody who's going to rock the order, because they're going to bring chaos. They're going to ruin a good thing that the elites and kings have. No longer are the serfs going to be playthings, toys in their pockets to play with anymore. And we see this very mindset today, a global push to control the destinies of all human beings, to comply and submit to the destinies decreed to them by their new overlords and masters, in a new world governing body on earth. Well, folks, it might shock you to realize that many of the most powerful people and families of the earth are actually involved in the occult, whose aim is to control the destiny of the masses through a collectivism and central planning mindset. Many of these folks are under the influence of the same old gods, these fallen watchers today. That's hard to believe in this modern world this stuff could ever happen, but it's happening. Therefore, spiritual contact is maintained, just like I stated before through Alice Bailey. These fallen entities come back to maintain spiritual contact with a ruling elite. They're looking for a ruling elite to work through, folks. Why? To set up a governing body on earth. In fact, Alice Bailey and her husband Foster Bailey were both instrumental in setting up the foundational goals to establish the UN as one such body to help implement world governance. Did you know that? They were instrumental in this. Alice and Foster Bailey were, and influenced many people. It is a matter of historical fact and record. Look it up. Do your own research, folks. Look at this next slide here, folks. Alice Bailey in the Reappearance of Christ on page 59 says, United Nations need to learn to apply the law of love as enunciated in the life of Christ to express the vitality of truth that no man liveth unto himself and no nation either. The goal of human effort is loving understanding, prompted by a program of love and right human relationships for humanity. So what did she mean by right human relationship? What does all this stuff about love? It's called enchantment. Enchantment gets you hooked on an idea to control and dominate, that you have a right to rule, and you can dominate and control because you're all about love. You're doing it to increase right human relationships and right the wrongs of humanity and bring peace on earth so everybody has peace and safety and a chicken in every pot. I mean, I shouldn't say chicken in every pot because, well, guess what? They're trying to get rid of meat, so it'll be bugs in every pot. Yeah, your bug sandwich in every pot. And so that you can enjoy, you serf. Wow, the elites enjoy a chicken in every one of their pots. That's basically what it comes down to. It's all about peace, all about safety. You heard those words spoken in the scripture when they say peace and safety come, sudden destruction comes? Or you can say it this way, peace and security. We're doing this for your betterment, folks, because we love you. We're doing it for the name of love. We love you so much. And you dweebs out there, you dweebs, man, I tell you, you are just speaking misinformation. We got to protect you from misinformation. Only our information is legitimate. Pay no attention to how wrong we were, but our way is the only way. Because we love you. We're doing and taking over the world for your benefit. Woohoo! You know, and it's all about love. That's enchantment. That enchanting idea, folks. That enchanting idea. I'm going to go bring this back up. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines enchantment as to influence as by charms and incantation, to bewitch or beguile, to attract and move deeply, to rouse to an ecstatic admiration. Other dictionary definitions include aroused to ecstatic ideas, paint a picture of perfection, a utopia that blots out reality, implants thoughts about love and unity to reach a blissful state. That is what Alice Bailey is channeling right there. Let's look at the next page here. Alice Bailey in the Reappearance of Christ in New York Lucius Trust, page 110 and page 146. Or page 46 of the PDF version says this. The major effect of his appearance. Whose appearance, folks? We got to ask ourselves a question. Whose appearance? This is the occult Messiah, the sun deity they want to get back on earth to rule everything. After the elites control everything, then the Messiah can return. You heard that before? Doesn't that sound familiar? Isn't that strange? Isn't that strange? It's just very odd. So they're talking about not Christ Jesus, but the Messiah, the occult Messiah, who we call as the Antichrist. So let's look at this a little further here. The major effect of his appearance will surely be to demonstrate in every land the effects of a spirit of inclusiveness, an inclusiveness which will be channeled or expressed through him. All who seek right human relationships will be gathered automatically to him, whether they are one of the great world's religions or not. Those who embody the spirit of exclusive and separateness will stand automatically and equally revealed, and all men will know them for who and what they are. In other words, they're talking about a separation going on here. Talking about a spirit of inclusiveness, folks. A spirit of inclusiveness. Well, I heard that somewhere before. You know, I hear this bald-headed guy from Davos talking about inclusiveness a lot lately. I find that dude talking so much, it sounds so much like Alice Bailey. I just wonder, is he on the same page with her? Maybe he's getting the same spiritual inspiration as her. Okay? Just think for a moment. What the heck is going on? So all this will be about spirit of inclusiveness will be channeled, and right human relationships will be taught. Jesus said in the last days, many will be offended, okay? So now there'll be a new law to rule over the masses. How? By, if you're offended, we can't have anybody offense, because we're going to have right human relationships. If we have right human relationships, nobody would ever be offended. And if you're offended, well, you're a reactionary group, and we gotta wipe you out, because for the greater good of humanity, you can't buy, sell, or eat until you have right human relationships. You gotta think happy thoughts. You got to make a transition to a new mode of thinking that moral perversity is the greatest thing since the napkin. And that it takes a village, a nation, in a communist hellhole to raise your child. But parents, you are too wicked, vile, and evil, and in this evil patriarchic system, you can't rule your own kids. You need to have right human relations taught to you. Isn't that strange? We're hearing some of that strange ideology being spoken on a worldwide scale today. And many are being censored. Think about it. Alice Bailey goes on, continues here. Externalization of the hierarchy on page 151. The reason for this faith in the human heart is found in the fact that the nature of deity itself, the Christian statement that God is love, is founded on that deepest recognized spiritual fact. This expression is a divine characteristic that can be summed up in the words of the voice of silence. So I got to ask, what in the world does she mean by the voice of silence? She's going to be talking about compassion. Love is love. Compassion, okay? You're going to bash the system down by promoting love, 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 love. We're going to make a loving, more kind, and gentler world. We're going to teach people how to have right relationships with each other. Okay? Look at what she said next. Compassion is no attribute. It's the law of laws, eternal harmony. So right there, it's not love as we think, but it's compassion. Okay? It's the law of laws, okay, of compassion, okay? Think about it. It's eternal harmony, folks. It's the law of laws of eternal harmony, that their love's all about compassion. It sounds great. It sounds wonderful. That's the enchanting. We're going to have compassion. We're going to love each other. And we're going to have a brave new world where everybody likes each other. And we're going to teach you right human relationships. You got to get rid of the old way of you thinking. You've got to get rid of the way it was always been done before that always worked, and do it this new way. It's a better way, because the elites want to govern the world. You're too stupid to know anything. We got to teach you right human relationships, because you have no compassion. You don't know what it's like to have satanic or satanistic compassion for people. You really don't. And we're the good guys. The other people are the bad guys. We're all about diversity. But your diversity is not included, because you don't want to go the way of this way. The type of weirdness that they talk about. You seen any of that lately? Let's go on here. This everlasting compassion and the cyclic appearance of the sun gods of ancient myths and the world's saviors and avatars bear witness are a guarantee. I find it interesting that she mentions the sun gods. The sun gods of ancient paganism are the same being. She's talking about bringing this thing back out of the abyss to rule the world after the elites take over and control the destinies of humanity to squash all dissent. And basically, humanity is just a simple plaything for the elites to play with. Well, folks, listen to how they want to do this. These avatars express the will of God, the energy of the Shambhala, and the impulse lying behind the divine purpose. When they do come forth, it'll be a destroyer aspect of the first ray of power, which they will express. They bring about death of the old limiting forms of that which houses evil. Their work will therefore fall into two categories. They will destroy the forces of evil by using the forces of light. They will reveal as much as the divine purpose as humanity is able to grasp through its best minds and most dedicated aspirants. They will destroy the present evil state of the materialistic aggression I may not reveal. So for some reason, this entity just shut up right then and there, because it's about to spill the beans and break the enchantment by basically almost laying out the plans of what they really want to do. They want to deceive the world to think that they're doing this for love, peace, and safety, and to train on right human relationships to build a brave new world of perfection. Sounds great, sounds groovy. Get out your weed, smoke it, whatever. Be happy to, make your potato chips and secret mushroom sauce and watch the sunrise. Just go in harmony, go hum. Everything will be alright. Sounds perfect, sounds beautiful. But it's all about power and control, folks. As B.O. Lindstring's work here about gods and the ancient prophecies, on page 8, she says, throughout Mesopotamian mythology, depending on the period, various leader gods were considered to be in charge of controlling the tablets of destinies. When that fell into wrong hands, a cosmic order got upset. And she goes on to explain it's all the tablets of destiny were all about control. This control was taught to the kings and leaders and the elites, and they influenced them to rule and govern through a totalitarian means to bring about a paradise on earth. Oh, folks, two classes of people, the ruling elite and the serfs, with one middle class, what is Dietrich Bonhoeffer would call as Dume Leitar? No, Leitar. Duma Leitar. I will talk about Duma Leitar in a minute. If you're German, you know what I'm saying. I hope I'm not slaughtering the German too much, but you know what I'm saying. Dietrich Bonhoeffer wrote in prison about who this new middle class of control agents were. And I won't want to spoil it right now. Let's continue onward here. So Alice Bailey, in Externalization of Hierarchy, wrote on page 151 of the PDF, when the Avatar comes, he will convey to humanity something for which we have yet no true name. It is neither love nor will. Hold on a minute. Hold on, folks. Isn't this all about love? Aren't they talking and enchanting that we're doing this for love's sake and for compassion? It sounds great. And that's just how you enchant, to build this idea that you can create this paradise of absolute total control. But it just contradicts themselves in this passage. Pay attention. Externalization of Hierarchy, page 151, PDF. When the Avatar comes, he'll convey to humanity something for which we have yet no true name. It is neither love nor will, as we understand them. Only the phrase of several words can convey something of the significance, then only feebly the phrase is the principle of directed purpose. Well, what is the principle of directed purpose? I can tell you. It's force. It's control. It's dominance. It's not about love, it's about control. It's about power. It's about dominance. The same thing that's written in ancient Mesopotamian lore that the pagan gods came down and taught humanity. Exercise dominance, control the destinies of humanity. Through lying about love, through lying about right human relationships. We're doing this for your best, serf. You own nothing, and you'll be happy about it. The United States will no longer be the world superpower. Meat will be a treat. Here, have a bug sandwich. We're doing this for you. We love you. Think about it. The phrase is the principle of directed purpose. This principle involves understanding of the plan as it can be worked out in the immediate future. What is the plan? The plan is to get a system of world government that is absolutely in charge and power of all aspects of everybody's life. A one world type of system that will control all aspects of life, so their sun deity can come back to earth. Let's continue. B, by focused intention. Focused intention is that you keep pressing, you take methodical, slow steps. You will achieve this through this hierarchy that'll be channeled to you, that you meet every day in your occult rituals, and you'll get guidance from to achieve this utopia, and they'll keep deceiving you. I mean, they'll keep leading you in ways of love in order to bash the opposition, to destroy them, because they can't live up to their own standards. We do. We believe in diversity. But does that mean that I have a right to retain my beliefs in the Lord God Almighty? Oh no, that's not diversity. We can't have that. Well, I just disprove that you do not believe in diversity as you teach it, nor do you believe in the love aspect that you teach, because you do not respect other people's points of view. I rather live in a Christian nation that allows free moral will, free thinking, and open debate than a totalitarian hellhole telling me that I have to have right human relationships according to what they say, not by grace, but by force and dominance, in order to control what I buy, sell, or eat to make me compliant. Well, I don't know which world you want to live in, but I know which one I want to live in. God's grace. Goes on. The capacity to direct energy through understanding and intent towards a recognized and desired end, overcoming all obstacles and destroying all that stands in the way. Wow. They're talking about reactionary forces, conservatives, Christians who hold values like there's only the masculine and the feminine. You can't mix the two together. One can't become the other. You believe in a family with a father and with a mother. Okay? That is deemed evil. The root of all evil. God's order and design must be burnt to the ground and built back better of right human relationships and wobbiness. But you know, it's really not about love. No, it's really not about love. It's about directed purpose. It's about control. Because we love you. We want to dominate you. Because we know best how to live your life better than you do. Only in the next 100 years will reveal the significance of the statement, only if the massed intent of the people invokes the avatar of synthesis. What's that? That means you take over all the cultural influencers like the media, arts, entertainment, sciences, psychology. You take over those. You take over the media. You take over governments. You take over the military. You redefine the family. All the cultural influencers do that and get everybody on this mindset that this is the way to go. In 100 years, they're going to bring this about, and we're approaching about close to that 100-year mark when this was written. Think about it. An externalization of the hierarchy on page 39 in the PDF. The hierarchy of love has made its appearance and must come into full manifestation, thereby enabling the love of God to be seen. In the next solar system, the sender, which we call the Shambhala, will manifest the will aspect of deity intelligently through love. It is interesting to note that only through human beings that these three senders can come into true functioning activity, and likewise that these three major ideologies or philosophies, the totalitarian, the democratic, which Alice Bailey means social democratic, and the communistic may be the response, distorted and yet responsive to the forces playing into the two higher centers on the human, as we discussed in the Destiny of Nations. All this is done through deceptive enchanting allurements that promote collectivism, of right human relations that seeks to remake a more, better, perfect, nicer world. And it's all achieved by the worst forms of government known throughout human history: totalitarianism, socialist democracy, and communism. Why did these entities choose those three? Because they control the destinies of humanity. Social democratic democracies do it in a nicer, gentler way. Totalitarians and communists just think of it this way. A train track is made of two rails and railroad ties tied together. One rail is totalitarianism, i.e. fascism. The other is communism, and the ties are social democracies, socialism. But the ties that hold it all together sound so nice and enchanting. We're doing it for love. We're going to make a brave new world. People have right human relationships and nobody's offended. And you moral perverts can practice your moral perversity because you have freedom now. No one's repressing you. Was anybody ever really oppressing you? Whoever in the heck ever stopped you? I just want to make people think for a second. These three ideologies and philosophies are the most effective to bring human beings into unquestioning compliance to the will of the state. That's why globalists desire these forms of government over free constitutional republic that mirrors the grace of God, or free market system. They can't control that. That cuts into their profiteering and upsets their control. And no, they can't have that. Yeah, that'll upset the tablets of destinies, because these elites think they have the divine right to rule and govern you. Why? Well, they're the great men of the earth, the great corporate elites, bankers, the richest of the rich, who influence governments, folks. And therefore, they made loans and sold you things, and they hurt people, so now they want to make right the world of what they did, because it's your fault for doing too much consuming. If you weren't doing too much consuming, consumer, I didn't have to go exploit land and dig up this great big hole in the ground to make lithium batteries. Oops, I'm sorry. Lithium batteries are noble and good. But, and solar and wind, but but oil is bad, but without oil, we're not going to make wires for the components needed for the windmills and the solar panels, because you got rid of the oil, and it makes no sense. You can't use nuclear fuel. Oh no, that's bad. In other words, what they say, and they just want absolute total control over you, folks. And they use those three systems of government to do it. Any outsider, outsiders are defined as anyone who believes in free speech, personal property rights, equal justice under the law, moral integrity, biological facts, objective truth, goodness, decency, law, and just order are a threat to their monopoly of power. Anybody who believes in free market system of economics is deemed as a threat. Why? If such are allowed to remain unchecked, the destinies of human beings cannot be controlled, monitored, and tracked to maintain the peace and safety that their totalitarian hell provides for the masses. To keep the masses in line involves censorship. It must be enforced. Don't allow the people coming to come together, to commingle with each other. Stifle all dissent in the bud. All this is from the old gods, those fallen angels of the Genesis 6 fame, whom Paul identifies as the Ephesians 6 crowd of principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, and hosts of wickedness in heavenly places, who use enchantments and allurements to create and ideas and philosophies that if you do this and follow this to control everything, you'll create a perfect world, which they will control for the common good of humanity, because humanity is too stupid and too dumb. They're too hungry. They're too selfish. They like raising their own children. Oh, how gross. They like pursuing happiness to better one's life by respecting of others, allowing debate. Can't have that. We can't control the destinies of humanity if we allow that. We must crush them, crush them, crush them. That's their ideology. You feel any of that lately? These people justify through this fake love they have that, you're consuming too much. To maintain a decent living. So you're robbing from somebody else. So it's better for us to control what you eat, think, buy, and sell, and drink, and how you live your life, because you can't do it. You're not fair. You're not doing an equity. You're not being inclusive enough. You don't have right human relationships. Here, let us love you, beat you, force you, comply for a just, inclusive world that mirrors the tablets of destiny of ancient times. Think about it. Where does all this high-sounding nonsense come from? It comes from the ideologies that are found and embedded in totalitarianism, socialist democracy, and communist philosophy. In fact, this fits what Colossians chapter 2, verse 8 warns about from the New Living Translation. Don't let anyone capture you with empty philosophies and high-sounding nonsense that comes from human thinking and from spiritual powers of this world, rather than from Christ. In fact, folks, the word capture there, or spoil or deceive, that's translated in other texts for that word, means to carry off into enslavement, using deceptive, enchanting ideas, philosophies spoken by human agents that have been inspired by spiritual powers of this world rather than from Jesus Christ. In other words, don't let anyone enslave you, carry you off with these empty-sounding philosophies, because these ideas come from spiritual powers to mankind that is akin to what we have seen in the lore of ancient Mesopotamian with their gods, i.e. the fallen watchers, the fallen angels. How they influence kings and rulers and the elites of their day, that they must rule the destinies or the of humanity. They must rule with an iron fist. Why? To create a new paradise on earth, just as Alice Bailey channeled thousands and thousands of years later. That's how they do it. They groom it through these philosophies. In other words, they enchant people to follow. The elite classes are steeped in this type of thinking, folks. They're inundated. They're educated in it. I heard over at Harvard and Princeton, some of these places and some of these schools, separate schools in these places, like the School of Philosophy or whatever, or the School of Mathematics, whatever, they're groomed, or especially law, they're groomed to be the elites. They have a right to govern the world because they know better. Because to make a better world involves acquiring absolute power and control, to control everything, in order to create a utopia of earth that is very descriptive of Plato's Republic. Let's look at a few modern ones, such as Friedrich Nietzsche and nihilism, or nihilism as some people say, folks. So Nietzsche said in The Will to Power, "What I relate is the history of the next 2 centuries. I describe what is coming, what can no longer come differently, the advent of nihilism." Why has the advent of nihilism become necessary? Because the values we had hereunto thus draw their final consequences, because nihilism represents the ultimate logical conclusion of a great value and ideas. Well, folks, how so? How so? Well, nihilism teaches that this is all there is to life. There is no God, there's no afterlife. When you die, you're a dead hunk of meat, like I said last video. All is basically hopeless. So in order to take the ideas of religion and stuff, make a new kind of religion in order to, if you need that crutch, just make this new religion. But this is all you have in life, folks. And so therefore you will achieve heaven on earth, because this earth is very cruel and mean. It's our job to make it, right human relationships, all love. We need to do it. We can make a utopia out of this garden and make it a Garden of Eden again on earth. Only for the generation that exists now, because the here and now, after you're a dead hunk of meat. But at least you carry on right human relationships after you're dead in this paradise. Who needs God? No, God is dead, as Nietzsche would say. And that's nihilism. That's nihilism. And in order to achieve a good leadership and good people for this nihilistic worldview, where you have to create a utopia now in this life only, so the succeeding generations can share that perfect world on and on and on through perpetuity, as long as they can maintain it, folks. You have to make an Uberman, a Superman. And Friedrich Nietzsche came up with the philosophy of the camel, the lion, and the infant. I'm not going to baffle you too much with this. Just think of the camel carries things. So you learn how to have right human relationships by the things you carry in life. Okay, I won't get into all the depths of this. Then you become a lion, where it's all about dominance, power, and control. That teaches you. But you got to have something to maintain it, to make you an Uberman, to balance the bearing the burdens of other people and being power and control like the lion. You need the infant stage, which is the Superman stage. What's that? You got to temper these to bring equilibrium through the infant stage. What's that? Well, in the infant stage, humanity is housebroken. How? When a person becomes a Superman, is when a noble, fair-minded idea of the Plato's Republic's tyrant king comes out into being. So you know how to carry people's burdens, you know how to exercise power and dominance and control, but you're tempered by being a fair-minded tyrant. And so these fair-minded tyrants will arise with others who help train humanity to maintain a paradise on earth for succeeding generations. So they rule the world by the elites, controlling the destinies of human subjects. Can't let human subjects out of their cage, folks. Keep them in that cage. Don't get out. Don't think. Don't think. Alice Bailey explains that preparation must be given to developing of higher psychic powers. Hospitals, schools will appear under direct guidance of the masters, teachers, and train the minds of pupils to be responsive to direct inspiration from above, folks. To accomplish this. They want to blend the corporate world with governments to work together to train you. All that means is they're going to gather together and sing Kumbaya and visions of Utopia. They're on a religious crusade to crush the life out of humanity to make you compliant. Alice Bailey, Externalization of the Hierarchy, page 152 and 218 out of the PDF. The attitude of humanity will lead to a new revelation, to a new world religion, new attitudes in relation to God, and of man to man and government to social relationships. They want to govern right human relationships, how to think right according to a narrative. You heard anything like that lately? In order to achieve this, this is done through how? As Alice Bailey talks about, Externalization of the Hierarchy, page 139 and 42 PDF, she talks about the hierarchy. I would remind you here that the evocation of divine contact will be in itself dangerous, disrupting and destroying. The results are unpredictable for the human being, for men are not accustomed to respond to lives influence so high of this divine nature. I mean, they can't handle being controlled and tracked. You're going to have to initiate them, folks. You're going to have to initiate them. How? When the hierarchy makes contact on Earth, it's going to be destroying, it's going to be disruptive. Have you seen the increase in chaos worldwide lately? Think about it. Nevertheless, there's a possibility that might now be more safely permitted if enough people stand together spiritually and selflessly and so offer themselves as channels for these new unknown spiritual forces. In other words, get a bunch of group of world servers and what she called as seed groups together to make a brave new world. Everybody's in tune. Everybody's working together in a collective hive to force humanity in this direction to make paradise on earth, because you either reach nirvana and bliss in heaven, or if there is no heaven, you got it covered. You're just a dead hunk of meat and you're carrying on the noblest sounding words of all, making a creative paradise on earth. Until an asteroid hits the Earth and destroys the Earth, and it's all to no effect anyway, but I digress. So look at the last paragraph here. Yet these powers exist, and the right handling of the present crisis by spiritually oriented humanity may bring about the release of some of these higher energies and the establishing of a line of factual influence among which they, the hierarchy, can move and consequently contact the Earth. Listen to what she said. Yet these powers exist, and the right handling of the present crisis. Wow, I heard somebody say that before, that you never let a serious crisis go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things you think you could not do before. Ron Emanuel, part of Obama's team, said that. And that's the philosophy of the left. Never let a good crisis go to waste. That comes from Alice Bailey. Right handling of the present crisis by spiritually minded, higher minded people who don't give a rip what you think. You're going to do it for your good, folks. How you like them apples? They're pretty bitter. Here, eat a bug sandwich instead. Why is this done? As it says on the screen, when men feel they have exhausted all their own resources and have come to the end of their own innate possibilities, that problems and conditions confronting them are beyond their solving and handling, they're apt to look to a divine intermediary. Okay? The idea here, folks, is to initiate all of humanity into a universal collective mindset by means of conflict, even changing language. In Alice Bailey's 7 Rays on page 4, it says this. A series of tests leading to initiation. How? Use certain words of power which give him control over the elemental forces of nature. So, what's your pronoun? Let's change words and words meaning. What is the meaning of the word is? That depends on what the word of meaning of is. We're not doing anything wrong. We're collapsing the economy. We're doing all this stuff for your noble good, because the hierarchy is leading us and telling us to. We're doing this for your own good. And we're going to change in words of power here and use words of power to make you live up to your own standards, which we know you can't, so we can defeat you. Page 343. Let me now summarize for you the points of importance of this instruction. The fourth ray of harmony through conflict is the controlling factor in human affairs at all times, and peculiarity today. The principle of conflict is the agent, a principle of harmony, and produces strains and stresses which lead finally to liberation. Liberation to say, please take care of me, government. I give up. I can't take it. I'm obedient serf. Here, have a bug sandwich. Oh, sorry, there's no bug sandwich for you. There's too many people on this planet. You gotta go. Bye. We love you. We're doing this for the collective good of humanity. Initiation, Human and Solar by Alice Bailey, page 45 PDF. This is done by seed groups. These seed groups are in the process of being esoterically anchored in the field of world, having them in those who can respond to solar forces, who can produce those conditions within the present existing world trends and world groups, which will enable the new sciences, new approaches to divinity, new education, new modes of handling economic situation and political problems to precipitate and further the growth of the kingdom of God in such a manner that this fifth kingdom in nature may be tangible, factual, objective occurrence on the earth. And Klaus would say, we must destroy capitalism. Capitalism bad. We must have collectivism. Communism. That's good. You own nothing, and be happy about it. I assure you, my father owned an armaments factory in Germany. We had slave labor, and we need that now. You own nothing, and be happy about it. I'm thinking of a brave new world for you. Alice Bailey writes that she received communication from the Tibetan, which was published in this article called A New Group of World Servers. The position taken by the spiritual hierarchy on our planet that a group was in the process of formation that had in it the nucleus of the coming world civilization. These qualities are primarily the spirit of inclusiveness and potent desire selfishly to serve one's fellow, plus the definitive sense of spiritual guidance emanating from an inner sight of life. Inclusiveness, equity. Boy, I've heard that someplace before. That sounds very familiar. Alice Bailey goes on in Raising Initiations, page 47 PDF. Men of goodwill and everywhere under the guidance of a new group of world servers will organize themselves into battalions of life, and their first major task must be the development of right human relationships through the education of the masses. This means paralleling development of an enlightened public opinion, which is speaking esoterically, the right response to the sound which conveys the will of God to the ears of the intention. Boy, it's all about announcing a new way to think about how to have right human relationships of inclusiveness, equity, make a greener, brighter world. I wonder who came up with that idea. Alice Bailey on Treaties of White Magic, page 188, says, on the physical plane, without any esoteric organization ceremonies from outer form, there is an integrating silently, steadily, powerfully group of men and women who supersede eventually the previous hierarchical effort. They'll supersede all churches, all groups, and organizations, will eventually constitute that oligarchy of elect souls who will govern and guide the world. She goes on in Return of Christ, meaning her Messiah. There are two groups who can do much. Those already using the financial resources of the world, if they catch the new vision, and also will see the handwriting on the wall, which is bringing the old order down in destruction. And secondly, the masses of the good, kindly people in all classes and spheres of influence. Wow. Burn down everything and destroy the old order by kindly good people? Isn't that kind of a paradoxical statement? Isn't that what do you call it? A conflict of truth there or something? I mean, there's a conflict there. You're saying something opposite of what you mean. How can you destroy and burn down the system and get rid of people and call that good, that the people who are doing it are good? No, noble, because I forgot, the tablets of destiny are at play here. Control the destinies of humanity for their own good. Yeah. Donna Mallets, in Conscious and Cure, Solutions to the 21st, blankety blank blank blank, wrote, imagine what would happen if all billionaires contributed to building a just world. I wonder what that would look like, because in 1972, Roy Ash, director of the Office of Management and Budget, stated, within 2 decades, the institutional framework for world economic community will be in place. Aspects of individual sovereignty will be given over to a supranational authority. I wonder who that was. Because, guess what? In 1979, or a little bit before that, this guy came on the scene and started the WEF. Huh? How did he know that? That in 20 years, they'd be setting the stage. And the 1991 at Rio conference and all this stuff we're talking about, wow, would take shape with Agenda 21, now Agenda 30. Wow, amazing, isn't it? Are these people psychic? Are they working under a hierarchy of effort? Yes. And it says Brock Adams, Democratic congressman from 65 to 1993, said this: to achieve world government, it is necessary to remove from the minds of men their individualism, loyalty to family traditions, national patriotism, and religious dogmas. Aren't these people loving and kind? Wow! Don't you want to surrender your power and autonomy over to them? They really love you, don't they? Yeah. 1963 U.S. Senator and Chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, William Fulbright, said this: the case for government by the elites is irrefutable. Alice Bailey, in Education of the New Age, in 1954, edition of her work on page 55 of the PDF public domain, says, we have now laid the ground for consideration of the three sciences which will dominate the thoughts and educators of the coming age: the building and development of the power to control life and to work white magic through the science of meditation. Wow. Wow. She's talking about power and control. How through white magic. White magic, good magic. We're doing this for your best. Wow. These people really love you. And also the science of service, whereby group control and group relationships are fostered and developed. These are three fundamental sciences which will guide the psychologist, educator of the future. These will also cause a radical change in the attitude of parents toward their children and the methods which they employ to train and teach them when they are very young in the formative years of their consciousness. Wow! Drag Queen Hour! Who would ever think that could ever possibly have come to be? And if you say anything, wow, you bigot, silence! You can't protect your children from moral perversity. That's a good thing. And also the science of service, whereby group control and group relationships are fostered and developed. These are the functional sciences will guide psychologists and educators of the future. They'll cause radical change in the attitude of parents toward their children and the methods which they employ to train and teach them at a very young age. Wow. You've seen any of that right now. Guess what? Former CIA Director William Casey from 1981 to 1987 stated, we know our disinformation program is complete when everything in America public believes is false. I kid you not. Did you know these things happened in your own country? Documented evidence is overwhelming. Wow. In Jack Tanner's 2019 book, Assessing Your Divine Power, sums up how the plan comes about to control the destinies of all humanity. It's time for a benevolent hypnosis of humanity. It's a time for a positive, optimistic suggestion to be everywhere and pervasive and universal. This benevolent hypnosis of humanity is called enchantment. Get them hooked on the idea of creating a perfect world. That if you don't do this, the Mother Earth is going to die. How are you going to bury Mother Earth? You don't want to kill Mother Earth, do you? Give up your sovereignty to the elite. Give all your money over to them. We'll take care of you. Suggestion is amazing power, the greatest human power of all. Advertisers use it all the time, and demagogues and religious and spiritual leaders and monarchs and the super rich elite. Why? Submissives are extremely receptive to suggestions made by dominants. Throughout history, self-serving dominants have told the masses what to think. The masses have duly thought, even when it was against their own interests. This is the basis of false consciousness. We need to ensure that everyone gets a true consciousness. Wow. I'm going to go back to Dietrich Bonhoeffer now. Dietrich Bonhoeffer stood up to the Nazi regime, and yes, he was ecumenical. I would say he's part of the Sardis bunch of people. However, he's one of those dressed in white who made it to heaven. I don't care what people think, negative or positive, about Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He stood up to fascism, real fascism, global fascism, if you want to know the truth. He stood up to it. And he wrote a letter in prison, and he called it Dumenleichter, or Duma Leichter. Yeah, Duma Leichter. And Duma Leichter translates in English as stupid people. So how the elites do this and maintain their powers through a class of people known as stupid people. Duma Leichters. Duma Leichters. Stupid people. Stupid people as he brought out in his writing about stupid people, when he's writing about the fascists, they're the mob. They come to your door. You can't talk to them. You can't reason with them. They're governed by slogans. They're governed by sayings. They have no ability to reason or think, and you can't reason with them. And the only way to deal with them is through direct confrontation through a mass of people that outnumbers them. They'll back and scurry off. However, that did not happen in Germany when the Nazis came to power and the fascists came to power there. It didn't happen. People complied, much like they're doing today. Think about it. So the elites initiate a group of stupid people to work through. Communism has the same phraseology, but they call them useful idiots. And in Soviet Russia, when Lenin came to power, they got rid of the useful idiots, the Mensheviks, and massacred them in droves on the street. Machine gunned them down, the people they used to come to power on. Think about it. Look at this last paragraph. It's time for a new order of the age, of a new higher humanity, one that is radically different relationship with suggestion. Suggestion must reflect the general will and be for everyone's benefit. We have all the tools at our disposal to bring about an astonishing metamorphosis of humanity. Wow. Do you see any of this stuff happen, folks? Are you seeing it? So, folks, I want to end with this. On November 30th, 2022, at First Baptist Church in Atlanta, Pastor Dr. George said this, and I quote, "Before our very eyes, this is happening, especially in the Western enlightened countries. There are groups of people who gather in unison and purpose in their hearts to take over the world. There are no bombs being dropped, no bullets, no overt military force occupying the Western world that's being used to accomplish this. They accomplish it by taking over the minds and thoughts of human beings, by establishing a monopoly on human thinking, by capturing the control of the educational establishment, by taking control and flow of information through the media and using entertainment and other forms through big tech. They are one person at a time, conquering more and more of the intellectual real estate to a point that the entire world is being brought under the sway and control of these manipulators of human thinking, who ultimately are controlling human behavior." Colossians chapter 2, verse 8 from the NLT reads, "Don't let anyone capture you, enslave you with empty philosophies, high-sounding nonsense that comes from human thinking and from the spiritual powers of this world, rather than from Jesus Christ." I wonder where some of these ideas are coming from. It's amazing, don't you think, where some of these ideas may be coming from? Wow. It just amazes me how people just cave into this stuff. But folks, I want to conclude with this. We as the church, like I said last week, are involved in a great spiritual war like we've never seen before. It's getting hot. We wrestle not against human beings, and we can't exact revenge on human beings. We got to be peaceable. Okay? I'm just telling you. You get on your knees and you start doing spiritual warfare. And you war over these people, break the control. Ask that the veils be lifted off their minds of the enchantments that they believe, and they can see what they teach is wrong. And then pray as well for God's judgment to fall upon them if they don't. It's the Lord to decide the fate of humanity. Jesus Christ has the keys of hell and death, not the world's elites, not the fallen watchers. With that, you be blessed in Jesus' name. Remember, folks, censorship is real, and we need places like Josh Peck's Daily Renegade. You need places like Derek Gilbert House, and Prophecy Watchers, and Skywatch TV, and I'm trying to think of Rock Harbor Church in Bakerfield, Temple Baptist, Dr. George, and First Baptist Atlanta, even Dr. Tony Evans as well. There are other ministers and other ministries out there that are holding the line. There's other ones I don't even know about, folks. Find some, plug into them, but also do some spiritual warfare against these entities. So before I go, I just want to send out my contact information, because if you'd like to contact me or support me anyway, my contact information is going to be on screen for a while. It's all there on screen. If you'd like to support what I do, email, contact me. Also, my book's there, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion. That's there too. So any way you can support me through prayer, any other way the Lord leads, please, it'll be helpful in this day and time. With that, you guys be blessed in Jesus' name.